This is the Release and Realization podcast, where we explore emotional freedom and practical manifestation based on the teachings of Lester Levinson and Neville Goddard to help you unlock your inner power and create the life you want. Welcome. In today's episode, David and Anna examine why manifestation techniques often don't work and what is actually missing behind the method.
Welcome back to another deep dive. Now, because you are right here, listening to this, tuning into this specific conversation today, I actually know something really fundamental about you.
Yeah, you're a learner.
Exactly. You are a learner. You're the kind of person who is just constantly absorbing new information, looking for that slight edge, I guess, that new perspective, or maybe just a better way of operating the world.
Which is a great trait to have.
It's a fantastic trait.
Yeah.
And because of that, I would bet good money that you have an absolute toolbox full of methods. Life hacks, intricate morning routines, carefully curated techniques that are all designed to improve your life.
Oh, the morning routines. I mean, we've all been there with the 10-step processes before 6 a.m.
Right. And you're probably using them right now to try and achieve these massive goals or optimize your time. Or if we get into the really interesting stuff, you're using them to manifest a completely different reality for yourself.
Which is where things usually get complicated.
Very complicated. Because you are putting in the work. You've read the dense books, you've listened to the 20-hour audiobooks on double speed, you've attended the workshops, and let's be real, you probably have a journal full of affirmations sitting on your nightstand right this very second.
Probably open to today's date, yeah.
Exactly. And I want you to be really honest with yourself for a second here. I want you to just drop the positive thinking facade and look at the raw data of your life.
The actual results.
The actual results. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you are trying incredibly, agonizingly hard to apply one of these methods?
Like visualizing with all your might.
Yes. You're sitting there, your eyes are squeezed shut. You're practically giving yourself a migraine trying to picture the goal. You are repeating your daily affirmations until your throat is literally dry.
Or trying to mentally force a specific feeling into your body. That's a huge one.
Oh, man, it is. Or, and this is the ultimate irony to me, you are trying so desperately hard to just let go.
Aggressively surrendering.
Aggressively surrendering. You're reading articles on how to surrender, and you're treating it like a competitive sport. You want to do the technique so perfectly, so flawlessly, that the universe basically has no choice but to deliver.
Then what actually happens?
Right. What happens? You put in this massive, exhausting, Herculean amount of effort and zero real movement in your physical life.
The needle doesn't budge, not even a single millimeter.
It is so incredibly frustrating, isn't it? It makes you just want to throw the entire toolbox out the window.
So, okay, let's unpack this, because today we have a set of sources that are going to dissect exactly why that happens.
And it's a fascinating perspective.
It really is. We are looking at a highly nuanced set of translated excerpts from a source text called Beilistet Suveg. And I have to warn you right up front, the core argument presented in these pages. It's going to take everything you think you know about self-improvement and manifestation techniques and turn it completely upside down.
It demands a total paradigm shift. A total shift. The central thesis of this text is that we are fundamentally, entirely misunderstanding exactly why our techniques are failing. We are looking at the completely wrong side of the equation.
It is a profound misdiagnosis, and honestly, it's one that almost every single human being makes when they first start interacting with these concepts.
I know I did.
Oh, me too. So our mission for this deep dive today is to completely and radically shift your focus away from the mechanics of what you are doing. For the next hour or so, we are going to put the techniques themselves, the journaling, the visualizing, the vision boards, the reciting, we're just putting them to the side.
Picking them completely off the table.
Exactly. Instead, we're going to drill all the way down into what lies entirely beneath the action. We're talking about the actual foundational state of consciousness that you are actively occupying while you perform these physical or mental techniques.
Because the state is what actually matters.
Right. Think about how the human mind normally operates when a method fails. We immediately go into this frantic troubleshooting mode, but we keep it strictly on the surface level.
We blame the tool.
We do. We assume, oh, I must have chosen the wrong technique, or I didn't focus my mind hard enough, or my personal favorite, I didn't do the visualization for the recommended 21 days straight. I missed a Tuesday, so the whole thing is ruined.
The universe revoked my manifestation because of a Tuesday.
Exactly. We treat it like we're assembling a piece of furniture, and we use the wrong size screw. But this raises an important question.
Let's hear it.
From what state of consciousness were you actually using that technique in the first place? That is the foundational bedrock question that we almost never stop to ask ourselves. And according to our source material today, it is quite literally the only question that actually matters in the process of creation.
I really love that analogy of troubleshooting you just used, because it reminds me of trying to bake a cake in an oven that isn't even plugged into the wall.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
Right. You mix all the ingredients perfectly. You put the batter in the pan, you set a timer, and when you pull it out and it's just this lukewarm liquid mess, you start furiously blaming the brand of flour you used.
Thinking, next time I need to buy the expensive organic flour, that's the secret.
Yes, but you're looking at the completely wrong variable. The environment, the underlying power source, was fundamentally dead to begin with. And the source text actually gives us a brilliant, immediate way to test this power source right now in our own physical bodies.
This is where it gets very practical.
It does. So I want to ask you, the listener, to do an exercise with us right now. I want you to pause whatever you're doing. I mean, obviously, if you were driving, please keep your eyes on the road. But internally, just pause.
And try not to overthink this next part.
Good point. Please do not answer this next question with your logical, analytical, problem-solving mind. Do not give me the correct spiritual answer. Just turn your attention strictly inward to your actual physical sensations.
Just observe the body.
Think about the last time you were really, really trying to manifest something. Or maybe you were trying to push a massive professional goal forward using sheer willpower and a specific technique. When you were in that intense mode of trying to manifest, what actually happens to your physical body?
Pay attention to the space.
Does your body expand? Does it feel open, relaxed, and spacious? Or does it suddenly tighten up? Does your breathing become deep, slow, and relaxed down in your diaphragm? Or does it suddenly become very shallow, very rapid, very controlled, maybe trapped right in the very top of your chest?
Notice where your attention goes, too.
Exactly. Is your attention wide and open, naturally taking in the room around you? Or does it narrow down aggressively, like a laser beam focusing solely on the glaring lack of this goal you're trying to achieve?
I am so glad the text directs us to start with the physical body here, because those physical reactions you just guided the listener through, the sudden tightening, the shallow trapped breath, the intensely narrowed focus, they are not just incidental minor details.
They're not just harmless side effects.
Not at all. They are actually crucial, blaring, physiological signals of your underlying state of consciousness. The text specifically points out a very recognizable, almost universal physical pattern that happens when we are trying desperately to manifest correctly.
I know exactly the pattern you mean.
Think about it. When you sit down to force a visualization, your forehead tightens slightly right between the eyebrows as you concentrate. Your attention feels like it is literally physically pushing forward.
Leaning aggressively into the future.
Yes, trying to grab something that isn't there yet. You hold this very subtle but very real tension in your chest. And your breath moves much higher up in your body, almost like you're bracing for a physical impact.
Now, the natural human instinct, especially for the high-achieving learners listening to this, is to immediately judge that tension.
We immediately think we're doing it wrong.
We view it as a mistake. We punish ourselves for not being zen enough. We think, oh no, I'm tense, I'm ruining the manifestation, I need to violently force myself to relax.
Which just creates more tension.
Exactly. But the source text is incredibly clear and forgiving on this point. It says this physical tension is not a mistake to be punished. It is highly accurate information to be read.
It's data.
It's empirical, bodily proof that you, as the creator of your reality, have slipped completely out of a natural creative state and fallen straight into what the text explicitly calls an acting controlling mode.
The acting controlling mode, that phrase is so descriptive.
It hits so hard it feels like a punch to the gut because it so perfectly describes how so many of us live our everyday lives, let alone how we approach our biggest dreams and desires.
We are practically marinated in a culture that rewards that mode.
We really are. We're taught that to get anything in life, you have to grip the steering wheel as tightly as humanly possible. We think creation requires this intense, white-knuckled gripping control.
Which is the opposite of creation.
I remember a few years ago, I was trying so hard to manifest a specific text message back from a client. It was a big deal, a huge contract. And I was sitting there on my couch. My forehead was totally scrunched up. I was sweating. I was holding my phone, intensely visualizing the screen, lighting up with their name.
Chanting affirmations in your head.
Literally chanting them. And looking back, My body was in full-blown fight-or-flight mode. I was practically vibrating with the energy of lack. I was trying to control the universe through my iPhone screen. But the text argues that these two things, control and creation, are entirely different beasts, aren't they?
They are completely opposed. It seems like the state of consciousness that desperately wants to control an outcome is fundamentally biologically opposed to the state of consciousness that actually creates an outcome.
How so? Break that down for us.
Well, it is like trying to drive a car forward while standing on the emergency brake. When you are operating from an acting controlling mode, let's look at what your baseline assumption actually is.
The silent belief running in the background.
Right. Your baseline assumption is that the thing you want absolutely does not exist right now. You believe it is separate from you, it is far away in the future, and you must use tremendous, exhausting force to bridge the gap between where you are and where it is.
You're acting from a deficit.
A severe deficit. You are trying to manipulate external circumstances or even manipulate your own internal thoughts and feelings to force a specific outcome to yield to your will.
And creation is entirely different.
Creation, on the other hand, according to the deep philosophy in this text, is a natural unfolding. It is an emanation. Effort, tension, and control are the absolute antithesis of natural creation.
Give us an analogy for that.
Think about a seed growing in the soil. It is a perfect, classic analogy for a reason. A seed doesn't sit in the dirt, clench its little seed muscles, tighten its metaphorical forehead, and aggressively, furiously push its way out of the earth through sheer force of will and anxiety.
It doesn't stress about whether the sun will come up.
Exactly. It simply naturally expands based on its inherent state of being. The state of the seed dictates the growth. That makes perfect sense.
So when you feel that tension in your chest, that tightness in your forehead, and that shallow breath, your body is effectively raising a massive red flag. Your nervous system is shouting, warning. You are trying to micromanage the infinite universe from a deeply entrenched state of lack.
You're doing the universe's job from a place of fear.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. Because this tension between control and creation leads us right into the philosophy of Neville Goddard, which the source text references quite heavily to make its point.
Yes, Goddard is central to this text argument.
Now, for anyone listening who might be unfamiliar, Neville Goddard was a massively influential mystic, author, and speaker in the mid-20th century. He essentially taught that the human imagination is the literal creator of our reality.
His work is brilliant, but it's often highly distorted today. Extremely distorted. Honestly, in today's internet age, he is so often misunderstood. He's been reduced to just a guy in vintage suits who told people to visualize what you want before you go to sleep. The nuance of his work has been completely flattened by social media sound bites.
Reduced to a life hack.
Exactly. But our source text today corrects this misinterpretation beautifully. Here's where it gets really interesting. The text explicitly states that it is never, ever the method that creates.
The method is powerless on its own.
Completely. The act of visualization does not create the reality. The spoken affirmation does not create the reality. The 5x55 journaling method does not create the reality. It is exclusively the state of consciousness you occupy that creates.
A technique simply does not have the inherent power to work or fail on its own merits.
The technique is essentially an empty vessel. It is a hollow tube. It is merely an expression, a conduit of the state you are currently in. But honestly, as I read that in the text, a part of my brain immediately pushed back.
Why is that?
I thought, wait a minute. Neville Goddard explicitly told his audiences, repeatedly, to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He gave them specific visualization exercises, like climbing a ladder in their minds. Isn't he literally telling us to force a feeling? Isn't he handing us a technique and telling us to use it to get a result?
That is the exact friction point where almost everyone gets stuck.
How does this source text reconcile that apparent massive contradiction?
It's a brilliant question to raise. It is the great illusion of the method. We idolize the method because our modern logical brains are obsessed with actionable steps. We think, if I just find the perfect sequence of words for my affirmation, or if I find the perfect time of day to visualize...
Like waking up at 3:33 a.m. because I saw a TikTok about it.
Exactly. We think the magic will happen. We think the power is in the recipe. But to answer your question about Neville's instruction to assume the feeling, we have to look closely at what the source text is trying to clarify.
What did he actually mean by assume?
When Neville said, assume the feeling, he wasn't telling you to emotionally pump yourself up with fake enthusiasm. He meant assume in the sense of putting on a garment or taking on a new baseline reality. He meant stepping into the state of consciousness where the desire is already a fact.
So the technique was just a tasting menu.
Yes, the technique of visualization was just his way of helping you taste that state. But the problem is, we turned the tasting tool into the engine itself.
We mistook the menu for the meal.
Perfectly said. The ultimate irony of forced visualization, and the text uses an incredibly clarifying example of this, is the paradox of lack versus abundance.
Let's walk through that example.
Imagine a person, let's call him John. John sits down, sets his timer for 20 minutes, closes his eyes, and intensely visualizes financial abundance. He's using all his mental willpower. He pictures the bank account screen with all the commas and zeros.
He pictures walking through the halls of his dream house.
Right. He pictures holding the keys to the luxury car. He is doing the method absolutely perfectly according to the internet gurus. But here is the critical flaw.
His underlying state.
The entire time John is sitting there forcing these opulent images into his brain, his stomach is tied in agonizing knots about a credit card bill he has to pay tomorrow, and he doesn't have the funds.
His jaw is clenched. His breathing is shallow.
Exactly. The fundamental state of consciousness that is actively driving that 20-minute visualization session is deeply, profoundly rooted in a sense of lack, fear, and financial desperation. He is visualizing wealth because he is terrified of his poverty.
So it's a massive, violent internal clash.
It is psychological warfare.
On the very thin surface level of his mind, the mental images are speaking a language of absolute abundance. He is painting a picture of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But the foundation, the deep, rumbling, underlying state beneath those flimsy images is screaming lack. I am broke. I am in danger at the top of its lungs.
And that raises the million-dollar question, literally.
In that brutal internal clash, which one wins? What actually materializes in John's physical reality? Does the universe listen to the pretty picture, or does it listen to the knotted stomach?
What's fascinating here is that the universe, or reality, or whatever you want to call the mechanism of creation, is entirely 100% deaf to the superficial mental image.
It doesn't care about the picture at all.
Reality does not care at all about the picture you are meticulously painting in your mind if the canvas you are painting it on is woven entirely out of whack. Reality always, without exception, mirrors the primary state of consciousness.
It's a flawless reflection.
It is a one-to-one reflection of the state, not the method. To help us grasp this, the text outlines a very strict, uncompromising hierarchy of creation. It is a three-tiered system.
Walk us through those tiers.
According to the text, the state of consciousness is primary. It is the absolute foundation. The mental image you hold in your mind is secondary. And the emotional feeling you generate in your body is tertiary. Primary, secondary, tertiary. State, image, feeling.
Primary, secondary, tertiary. State, image, feeling. You realize that this completely reverses how almost everyone in the self-improvement space is taught to do this, right?
It flips the script entirely.
Most people are taught to work from the bottom up. We're taught to brutally force the mental image to intensely stare at the vision board in order to artificially generate a feeling of excitement, hoping that if we do that long enough, we will eventually arrive at the correct state of consciousness.
We are trying to wag the dog by the tail.
Yes, we are trying to force the fruit to grow the roots. And it is completely backward, which is why it is so exhausting and yields such terrible results.
The text explains that the state of consciousness is the ground, the rich soil from which everything else naturally, spontaneously arises.
It has to start with the state.
Think about it this way. When your state of consciousness is actually genuinely aligned with what you desire, when you are operating from the quiet, settled state of already having it, or it being a completely natural, mundane fact of your everyday life, you do not have to force the mental images.
You don't have to schedule time to visualize.
The images just pop into your head naturally, effortlessly, like daydreaming. The feelings of joy, or more accurately, the feelings of calm, relief, and satisfaction, don't need to be pumped up artificially like you're at a motivational seminar. They are a natural, inevitable byproduct of the state.
I love the physical analogy the text uses for this.
The warm room.
Yes, if you are sitting in a deeply heated, warm room, your state is being in a warm room. Because you are in that state, you do not have to close your eyes, intensely visualize a roaring fire, and forcefully repeat affirmations like, I am warm, I am so warm, I am experiencing heat, in order to generate the physical feeling of warmth.
The state of the room makes the feeling completely natural and effortless.
You just feel warm because of where you are. When you are in the correct state of consciousness regarding your goals, the images and feelings are effortless byproducts.
If you find yourself sweating, straining, clenching your jaw, and desperately trying to force an image of a new job or a new relationship to hold still in your mind, that physical strain is your body's intelligent way of telling you something.
It's telling you you're in the wrong soil.
It's telling you that you are attempting to violently plant a secondary seed into the wrong primary soil. It will not grow.
That is honestly such a relieving concept to absorb. The idea that if a practice feels like grueling, agonizing mental labor, you're actually doing it from the wrong place anyway, so you might as well stop and give yourself a break.
You aren't failing because you didn't try hard enough.
Exactly. You are failing because you are trying too hard from a place of not having. It completely invalidates the hustle culture of manifestation. And that brings us perfectly to the next part of the source text, which I absolutely love because it moves from high-level philosophy down into something incredibly practical, though admittedly terrifying for some.
Terrifying is the right word for it.
The author of the text invites the reader, and we are officially inviting you, the listener, into a real-time experiment. Now, listen closely, because this is not a new technique to add to your already overflowing toolbox.
We are not giving you a new 10-step process.
It is simply an observation. And the directive from the text is beautifully, frustratingly simple. Do absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
I mean it. Right now, as you listen to my voice, don't visualize anything. Don't repeat any secret mantras in your head. Don't try to fix your posture to be more receptive to the universe. Don't try to monitor your breathing to make sure it's spiritual enough.
Just do nothing.
And notice how your physical body naturally settles when you completely, utterly drop the agenda to create, fix, or force something into existence. Now, I have to say, telling an overachiever, telling a dedicated learner to do absolutely nothing is practically inviting them to have a mild panic attack.
It causes real anxiety.
I know when I first tried this, my brain immediately rebelled. It was screaming, if I do nothing, everything falls apart. If I drop the technique, won't I lose all my progress? How will the universe know what I want if I don't constantly remind it?
It's a very common reaction.
Why is our baseline calm so terrifying to us? Why do we feel like doing nothing is a dereliction of duty?
It is terrifying because your ego and your logical mind have tied your entire sense of safety and worth to your ability to control outcomes through action. You have been conditioned to believe that your wanting energy, your striving, is the engine that keeps your life moving.
We think our anxiety is the fuel.
You fear that if you let go of the steering wheel, the car will crash. But if you can push through that initial wave of panic, that withdrawal symptom from the addiction to control, and really allow yourself to drop the massive effort, what you'll find underneath all that mental noise is a profound baseline calm.
What does that calm actually feel like?
It is a very specific, quiet, internal realization that whispers, I don't actually need to achieve, fix, or attain anything right in this exact microscopic second. There is an unforced presence. You aren't leaning aggressively into the future trying to grab your desires, and you aren't dragging the heavy luggage of your past failures behind you.
You are just here, settled, breathing.
And what the text highlights, which is profoundly structurally important to understand, is that this quiet, undemanding presence is not an empty void.
It's not just giving up.
No, it is already a highly potent, incredibly powerful state of consciousness. It is a state of neutrality. It is a state of wholeness. It is completely devoid of the vibration of lack. Because in that exact moment of pure presence, you don't lack anything. You are just being. And reality is highly responsive to a state that is devoid of lack.
It's the complete absence of the wanting energy. And I think we all know exactly what that wanting energy feels like. It's a very specific flavor of physical and emotional sensation. It's heavy, it's sticky, it's desperate, it's exhausting.
It feels like you are constantly walking uphill.
When you drop that heavy backpack of wanting and just exist in that baseline calm you described, you are suddenly, instantly, no longer transmitting a massive, blaring, energetic signal of, I do not have this yet. You silence the broadcast of lack.
You turn off the alarm bell.
And this explains something so perfectly that used to drive me absolutely crazy. The source text brings up a phenomenon that it calls the anatomy of the click.
Ah, the click.
If you talk to anyone who has had a major life-changing breakthrough, or anyone who has manifested something massive in their life without apparently forcing it, they almost always use the exact same vernacular. I'll read a few direct quotes right from the translated text.
Let's hear them.
Suddenly, I just let it go. Something just clicked inside me. I stopped wanting it so desperately. It just started to feel natural. For years, I used to read those success stories on forums or in books, and I would hear people say those things, and I would get so intensely frustrated.
You wanted the instructions.
I would think, okay, that's great for you, but how exactly did you let it go? Give me the step-by-step technique for letting go. Did you write it down and burn the paper? Did you say a specific prayer? I was treating letting go as an action item on a to-do list. But reading this source text, I realized I was missing the point entirely on a fundamental grammatical level.
You absolutely were, and so is everyone else who asks that question. You were looking for a verb when you should have been looking at a noun.
A noun. Tell us more about that.
Those phrases, the click, the sudden letting go, the washing over of naturalness, they are not descriptions of successful techniques. Nobody on earth applies a 5-step letting go technique to successfully achieve a click. You cannot force a letting go.
Because forcing letting go is just more control.
Exactly. Those phrases are purely simply descriptions of a shift in state. They are describing the precise moment a person transitioned out of the primary state of lack, fear, and acting controlling, and dropped into a primary state of naturalness, wholeness, and having.
So the click is a physical sensation of that shift.
That click they describe is the literal physical feeling of the tension leaving the center of the chest. It's the sensation of the breath, which was trapped in the throat, finally dropping back down deep into the belly. It is the spontaneous, unforced realignment of consciousness.
And once that happens, the manifestation follows.
And what's crucial to understand is that once that click happens, once the state truly shifts, the manifestation inevitably follows. And it follows not because of the 1,000 stressful affirmations they chanted beforehand, but because the state of consciousness finally shifted to match the reality of the desire.
The affirmations were just noise.
The affirmations were just noise. The click was the actual engine engaging.
Okay, this is a massive paradigm shift. But I know our listener, the pragmatic learner, is probably thinking right now, okay, this philosophy is beautiful. The state is everything. The technique is just a secondary expression. But how do we actually apply this in the gritty, real world?
It's a fair question.
Does this mean I should never journal again? Do I throw away my vision board? The text actually addresses this, and it makes a brilliant, incredibly clear comparison between two completely different paradigms of action.
It contrasts the technique from lack versus the technique from source.
Let's look at approach A first. The technique from lack. The internal silent monologue driving the action here is, I have to do this technique so that I can get the thing I desperately want. The technique is entirely weaponized.
It's being used as a blunt instrument.
A desperate tool to violently eliminate the painful feeling of lack.
Yes. In approach A, the technique is an absolute chore. It is hard physical labor for the mind. You are essentially digging a ditch with your mind, sweating, swinging the pickaxe, hoping to eventually strike a vein of gold.
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting, and because the underlying state is, I am currently lacking the gold, reality will just keep giving you more dirt to dig.
But let's look at the alternative. Approach B.
Right.
The technique from the source state.
The action might look the same, but the internal monologue completely radically changes.
The silent belief becomes, this technique, this visualization, this feeling I am exploring is entirely natural and pleasurable to me right now because it perfectly matches the state of consciousness I am naturally occupying.
The crucial foundational thing to understand here is the profound transformation of the action itself. Let me paint a picture. If I were a fly on the wall in your living room watching you, your external physical actions might look absolutely identical in both scenarios.
Sitting on a cushion, eyes closed.
In both approach A and approach B, you are sitting quietly on a cushion with your eyes closed for 20 minutes. From the outside, it looks like the exact same process, but the internal state, and therefore the literal frequency of the energy you are emitting, the state of your nervous system, and inevitably the final manifested result is entirely fundamentally different.
In one, you are begging. In the other, you are basking.
Basking, precisely.
So what does this all mean for the listener who actually genuinely enjoys visualizing? Or the person who loves the ritual of journaling every morning? As you said, it doesn't mean you have to throw your toolbox away in a panic.
Not at all.
It means that when you access that source, that baseline calm we practiced earlier, where you realize you don't actually need anything in this moment to be whole, the technique completely transforms its nature. It stops being a grueling, heavy chore that you have to tick off your to-do list.
The text uses such wonderful, liberating words for this transformation.
It says the technique becomes play. It becomes a joyful expression of who you already are. It becomes a gentle tuning of your instrument, rather than a frantic, desperate attempt to build the instrument from scratch while the concert is already starting.
You aren't doing the technique to get the thing anymore.
You are doing the technique simply because it feels incredibly good to express the state of already having it. It reminds me of a comparison. It's like singing in the shower.
I like this analogy.
Approach B is singing in the shower, purely because you were in a great mood, the warm water feels amazing, a good song popped into your head, and it just naturally spills out of you. You don't care what you sound like. It is pure, joyful expression.
And approach A.
Approach A is standing in the shower, stiff as a board, forcing yourself to sing a specific song perfectly because you read a scientific article claiming that singing in the shower for 5 minutes will forcefully lower your cortisol levels and make you happy.
That is a perfect, flawless analogy.
One is a natural expression of a state. The other is a forced manipulative action trying to buy a state.
The difference in the physical body between those two singers is night and day. And we can actually test this shift in your body right now using the text guidance.
Let's do it.
The source text heavily encourages continuous, gentle observation of the body as a feedback loop. So let's do a real-time expansion check. As you, the listener, are hearing this deep dive right now, as you are taking in these concepts about dropping the exhausting effort, putting down the heavy backpack of lack, and realizing that your simple baseline calm is already a profoundly powerful state of consciousness, check in with your physical body.
Don't judge it, just observe it.
Is your inner space expanding or is it contracting? Do you feel physically lighter than you did 20 minutes ago? Is your breath a little deeper? Do you feel a sudden, quiet sense of relief washing over you, maybe a dropping of the shoulders?
I know I do, absolutely. Even just sitting here talking about this with you, acknowledging out loud that the frantic, endless effort of trying to manifest is completely unnecessary. It physically feels like taking off a weighted vest I didn't even realize I had strapped on this morning.
It's a palpable relief.
I could literally feel my own forehead unscrunching.
And that feeling of lightness, that very real, measurable physical expansion in your chest and the deepening of your breath is incredibly significant. Do not dismiss it. The text notes that if you feel that extension happening right now, your state of consciousness is already shifting.
Just from listening.
And I want you to notice something crucial about this shift. It is shifting right now, not because you applied a forced, rigorous method. It is not shifting because you chanted a specific ancient mantra for the last 20 minutes, or because you visualized a check with your name on it.
It's shifting simply due to the recognition of truth.
Recognizing the underlying mechanics of your own consciousness naturally automatically guides you back to that powerful source state. You do not have to fight and force your way there. You just have to realize where you currently are, and simply by observing the tension of the acting controlling mode, the illusion of lack begins to dissolve on its own, bringing that beautiful physical expansion with it.
Which brings us to what I believe is the ultimate defining turning point for you, the learner listening to this deep dive. If you take only one single thing away from our entire conversation today, it needs to be this massive paradigm shift in how you interrogate your own life and your own processes.
This is where we redefine the goal entirely.
I want to challenge you right now, based on everything we have just uncovered from this text, to take the old question that you have likely been obsessing over for years, that frantic, searching, endless question of which technique works best. Is it the 3-6-9 method? Is it scripting? Is it subliminals?
The question of the tool.
And I want you to throw that question completely out the window. Banish it. It is a dead-end question. It is a trap. It inherently assumes that the true power of creation is located outside of you, hidden away in some secret ancient manuscript, or locked behind a $500 online course taught by a guru.
The power is never outside.
The source text demands, if we are to truly step into our creative power, that we permanently replace that old anxiety with a new, deeply foundational question.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of your entire life, this new question changes the whole trajectory of how you interact with your reality on every level. The question is no longer about evaluating the tool.
What is the new question?
The question you must diligently ask yourself, the question that will act as your true north compass is, from which state of consciousness is the thing I desire entirely, mundanely natural?
From which state of consciousness is what I desire natural?
Just sit with that sentence for a moment. Let it echo. Because if you can clarify that state, you can identify what that baseline calm, that unforced bodily presence actually feels like when the desire is already a settled, boring fact of your existence, then the method you choose to use, if you use one at all, becomes entirely secondary.
Becomes incredibly simple and lightweight.
You might just naturally find yourself daydreaming about your goal while doing the dishes with a soft smile on your face. And that tiny, effortless moment will be 1,000 times more effective energetically than an hour of forced, sweating, teeth-gritting visualization.
Because it's coming from source.
Or, as the text very provocatively points out, once the state of consciousness is clear, solid, and natural within you, sometimes the method becomes entirely 100% unnecessary. You don't have to do anything because you already are the state that naturally, inevitably produces the physical result.
The being creates the doing.
The entire goal of this fascinating source material isn't to hand you yet another technique to cram into your overflowing toolbox. It is to help make these invisible, subtle states of consciousness recognizable to you. It is teaching you how to read the dashboard of your own body so you can stop exhausting yourself fighting the surface waves and start masterfully directing the deep ocean currents underneath.
It is such a profound, life-altering shift from the exhausting cycle of doing to the profound power of simply being. And I have to say, the source text we reviewed today actually leaves us with a really fascinating, tantalizing teaser for what comes next in their philosophy.
The difference between thought and state.
Exactly. It hints heavily that in future sections, it is going to explore a deeply, chronically misunderstood aspect of Neville Goddard's teachings, the critical structural difference between a passing thought and an actual embodied state of consciousness in the process of creation.
Because let's face it, this is another huge pain point.
We all have thousands of random, weird, and sometimes intensely negative thoughts a day. And people in the self-improvement space get utterly terrified that a single bad thought about feeling is going to instantly manifest and ruin their entire life.
They try to police every single thought.
Which is just another exhausting form of the acting controlling mode. But the text suggests there is a massive fundamental difference between a fleeting, surface-level thought, like a bird flying past a window, and the deep, primary, rooted soil of a state of consciousness. That is going to be an absolutely incredible concept to unpack in a future deep dive.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
But before we wrap up our conversation today, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on. Something that builds on everything we've discussed, but intentionally takes it out of the lofty realm of manifesting big goals and drops it right smack into the middle of your mundane, everyday life.
Bringing it back down to earth.
If we now know, as a matter of physiological and psychological fact, that our deep state of consciousness is the actual humming engine of our reality, and if we know that physical tension, the tight forehead, the raised shoulders, the shallow, trapped breath, is a blaring, flashing alarm bell signaling that we have slipped into an acting-controlling state of lack, then I want you to think about your normal, average Tuesday.
The micro moments of the day.
How much of your utterly mundane daily routine is secretly, quietly cementing a primary state of lack without you even consciously realizing it? Think about how tightly you grip the steering wheel during your morning commute the second traffic slows down. Are you gripping it like you're trying to choke the steering column?
That tension is a state.
Think about how incredibly shallow your breathing becomes the exact second you open your email inbox at work and see 50 unread messages. Think about the subtle clench in your jaw when you're standing in line at the grocery store. Are you inadvertently practicing and embodying the state of lack, tension, and control all day long for hours on end without even knowing it?
It's a sobering realization.
And more importantly, the provocative question is, can we start to aggressively use the physical expansion of our body? That intentional deep breath, that conscious dropping of the shoulders, that unfurrowing of the brow. Not just when we sit down on a meditation cushion to manifest something big, but as a minute-by-minute, hour-by-hour compass for how we are moving through our entire existence.
Using it continually.
What happens to your life, your stress levels, and your manifestations if you make expanding your physical tension your primary non-negotiable goal all day long?
That is a truly phenomenal question to leave off on. It takes this entirely out of the realm of abstract, mystical philosophy and moves it into a lived, continuous, highly practical practice. It is about using the physical body as the ultimate, infallible feedback loop for your consciousness.
It's the ultimate compass.
If the body is tense, the state is lack. If the body is expanded, the state is creation. It is that beautifully simple.
Exactly. Keep it simple. So we want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We genuinely hope this conversation has given you a massive physical sigh of relief. Do yourself a favor. Step away from the overflowing toolbox today. Stop forcing it. Stop trying so unbelievably hard to control every variable. Just exist. Notice how your body settles when you let go of the agenda, and simply see what happens when you let the profound power of naturalness take over. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, please consider subscribing to the channel. For more in-depth and advanced content, you're welcome to join us on Patreon. We'll be back next week with the continuation of this topic.